Winter arrives quietly along the fjord. Not in a single storm, but in the gradual surrender of light. Days shorten first. The sun lowers earlier behind the mountain ridges, its warmth fading weeks before the snows fully settle. By midwinter, twilight lingers long into morning, and dusk returns before the settlement's work has fully begun. The fjord itself changes character beneath the cold. Its waters darken, deeper blues and iron greys, replacing the reflective shimmer of summer months. Mist rises more frequently from its surface, thin layers of vapor drawn upward, where cold air meets the sea's retained warmth. Along the shoreline, frost forms delicate patterns across dock posts and moored boats. Ropes stiffen in the cold. Wood creaks more sharply beneath shifting ice. Fishing vessels, so active in warmer seasons, now rest longer between journeys. Winter seas are less forgiving. Winds sweep more freely through the fjord valleys, funneled between steep mountain walls. These winds carry snow, sometimes in gentle drifting curtains, sometimes in sudden, blinding squalls that erase the horizon entirely. Within the settlement, daily rhythms adjust to the season's demands. Work begins later in the morning, once faint light returns to the sky. Fires are kept burning longer, not just for cooking but for survival warmth. Timber walls hold heat as best they can, but winter always presses inward, reminding every household of the fjord's harsh beauty. Snow gathers gradually along rooftops and pathways. Footprints become the settlement's temporary roads, packed trails leading between homes, storehouses, and shoreline. Children move more carefully now, wrapped in wool layers that soften their movements into slow, padded steps. The air smells different in winter. Cleaner. Sharper. Wood smoke hangs low across the settlement, unable to rise quickly through the cold. It drifts between structures in pale ribbons, carrying the scent of pine and birch burned steadily through long nights. Food stores become more precious during these months. Fishing slows. Travel becomes dangerous. Preservation efforts from autumn, dried meats, smoked fish, stored grains, now sustain the community through the coldest weeks. Inside longhouses, life grows quieter but closer. Families gather more frequently near shared hearths. Tools are repaired rather than used. Cloth is woven. Stories are spoken softly, while storms move unheard beyond timber walls. Outside, snowfall reshapes the fjord landscape. Pine forests grow heavier beneath layered branches. Mountain slopes soften under white cover. Even sound changes, absorbed by snow until the world feels hushed as though wrapped in wool. On clear nights when winds settle and clouds part, the sky reveals its winter brilliance. Stars appear sharper in the cold air. And sometimes, the aurora returns, pale green ribbons, moving silently above frozen ridges and dark fjord waters. Its light reflects faintly across snowfields and ice-rimmed shorelines, giving the landscape an otherworldly calm. Yet for those living beside the fjord, winter is not mystical. It is familiar, demanding but understood. Preparations made in warmer months now prove their worth. Shelter holds. Fires endure. And the settlement moves in quieter harmony with the season's slower breath. Within the warmth of timber halls, life continues, measured not by harvest or voyage, but by endurance, patience, and the steady passage of winter nights. Spring does not arrive suddenly along the fjord. It begins quietly, almost unnoticed at first. A slight softening in the wind. A gentler warmth within the morning air. Snow still covers the ground in shaded valleys, but its surface grows heavier, no longer dry and powder-light but damp and slowly settling. Along the shoreline, the first signs of change appear in the water itself. Ice that once gripped the fjord's edges begins to loosen. Thin sheets fracture near dock posts, drifting outward in slow, glass-like fragments that tap softly against one another with hollow, ringing sounds. Ropes that were stiff through winter regain their flexibility. Wooden hulls creak as boats settle lower into ice-free water. Mist rises more frequently now, drawn from the meeting of cold sea and warming air. It rolls across the fjord in pale veils that thin gradually beneath strengthening daylight. The light itself begins to change. Where winter days were brief and dim, spring stretches the horizon longer. Morning arrives earlier behind the mountain ridges. Evening lingers with a faint glow long after the sun has passed from view. Within the settlement, these changes do not go unnoticed. Doors open more frequently. Fires are allowed to burn lower during daylight hours. People step outside with greater ease, no longer bracing against biting winds. Snow along pathways compacts and melts, revealing earth beneath, dark, wet and breathing again after months of frost. Water begins to move where it had been silent. Small streams form along hillside slopes, fed by melting snowpack above. They trickle downward through pine roots and stone crevices, eventually joining the fjord in gentle, flowing threads. The sound of running water returns, quiet but constant. Fishing preparations begin cautiously. Boats that rested through winter are inspected along the shore. Hull planks are checked for warping from cold. Tar seals are reapplied where needed. Oars, stored indoors, are brought back into daylight. Nets are unrolled and repaired, where ice damage may have weakened their knots. Seabirds return before the fishermen do. Their calls echo across the fjord as they circle above newly open water, searching for the first schools of fish rising closer to the surface. Their presence signals renewal. Food sources shifting back into motion. Trade routes, long dormant through winter storms, begin to reopen as well. Travel between fjord settlements becomes possible once more. Not yet frequent, but no longer impossible. Paths that had been buried beneath snow emerge gradually. Foot travel resumes first, followed later by cautious boat journeys along calmer waters. Within homes, winter stores are inventoried carefully. Dried meats, smoked fish, preserved grains, supplies measured to ensure they last until fresh harvests and catches fully return. Spring is hopeful, but not yet abundant. It is a bridge between endurance and renewal. Work resumes slowly. Not rushed, but deliberate. Tools are brought outdoors once more. Timber is cut for repairs postponed through winter months. Roof thatching is inspected where snow weight may have strained supports. Children move more freely now, their heavy winter layers replaced by lighter wool garments that allow easier steps across thawing ground. They follow the returning streams, watching ice melt and water carve new paths through soil and stone. The fjord reflects more light again. Where winter waters were dark and still, spring brings subtle movement back to the surface. Gentle ripples form beneath softer winds. And on clear days, the returning sun casts longer reflections across the widening expanse of open water. Yet even in renewal, calm remains. Spring along the fjord is not loud. It unfolds patiently, guided by meltwater, lengthening light, and the slow, steady return of life to the shoreline. A season of awakening, but still wrapped in the quiet rhythms that define fjord living. Summer arrives along the fjord not with sudden heat, but with light. A slow, steady expansion of daylight that stretches the hours until night itself feels distant. At the height of the season, the sun lingers long beyond what winter memory would believe possible. It lowers toward the horizon, but does not fully disappear. Instead, it glides just beyond the mountain ridges, leaving behind a soft twilight glow that persists through the quietest hours of the night. The fjord reflects this light beautifully. Waters that were dark and heavy through winter now shimmer with pale gold and silver tones beneath the midnight sky. Even in stillness, the surface seems alive with reflection. Mist that once rose in cold veils now lifts lightly in the warmth of extended daylight, dissolving quickly into open air. The shoreline transforms as well. Grass thickens along the slopes. Wildflowers emerge between stone outcroppings, small bursts of color that soften the otherwise rugged terrain. Pine forests deepen in green, their branches swaying gently beneath calmer summer winds. Within the settlement, activity reaches its seasonal peak. Summer is the season of motion. Boats that rested through winter now depart regularly from the fjord's docks. Fishing journeys extend farther along the coastline, following the migration patterns of cod, herring and mackerel drawn into northern waters by warmer currents. Nets are cast beneath open skies. Oars dip rhythmically into calmer seas. The sound of wood against water becomes one of the settlement's most familiar summer rhythms. Trade routes expand as well. Longer voyages become possible once storms subside and daylight extends navigation hours. Travelers move between fjord communities carrying goods gathered from distant coasts: furs, iron tools, woven cloth, preserved foods, and carved timber pieces shaped during winter craft seasons. These exchanges strengthen connections between settlements that remain isolated through colder months. Docks grow busier during these weeks. Boats arrive and depart in steady intervals, their hulls creaking softly as cargo is loaded and unloaded beneath the sun's lingering glow. Even the sea itself feels calmer. Summer winds are gentler, moving across fjord waters in long, steady currents rather than sharp winter gusts. Waves lap quietly against rocky shorelines, their movement soothing rather than forceful. Children play closer to the water's edge during these months, supervised carefully, but allowed greater freedom along the safer, calmer docks. They watch fishermen repair nets between voyages, learning patterns that will one day shape their own seasonal work. Food abundance returns with summer's arrival. Fresh fish replaces winter stores. Wild herbs grow along the slopes once more. Berries begin to form, small and tart beneath the long northern light. Meals grow lighter, more varied, though always shared within the warmth of timber halls when evening finally settles. And though darkness never fully claims the sky, rest still comes. People sleep beneath softened twilight rather than deep night, the fjord glowing faintly beyond settlement walls. Lanterns are used less frequently now. Natural light lingers long enough to guide even late work and travel. Yet even in abundance and motion, the calm rhythms of fjord living remain unchanged. Journeys are deliberate. Fishing is patient. Trade unfolds without urgency. Summer does not rush the settlement, it simply allows it to breathe more freely. To travel farther. To gather more. To prepare again quietly for the seasons that will follow. Autumn arrives quietly along the fjord. Not with sudden cold, but with subtle changes that only careful eyes notice at first. The light begins to shorten. Evenings cool more quickly. The air carries a sharper edge, especially in the early mornings when mist settles low over the water and clings to the shoreline. Colors shift across the landscape. Green slopes deepen toward darker shades. Pine needles thicken beneath footpaths. Birch and scrub trees along the hillsides take on muted gold and amber tones, their leaves catching the last warmth of the season. The fjord itself grows calmer again. Summer traffic slows. Boats return more frequently to their home docks, voyages shortening as weather patterns begin to change. Fishing continues, but with greater care. Autumn seas are less predictable than summer's calm waters. Winds return in longer, heavier breaths across the fjord. Sails are reefed more often. Oars are kept ready even on short journeys. Within the settlement, focus shifts toward preparation. Autumn is the season of gathering and securing. Fish caught during these weeks are carefully preserved. Smokehouses remain active, thin streams of smoke rising steadily into the cooling air as flesh cures slowly above low fires. Roots are harvested from nearby plots. Grain stores are checked and redistributed. Tools are inspected, repaired now rather than later, when winter darkness makes such work harder. Every task carries an unspoken awareness. What is not prepared now will be missed later. Woodcutting resumes in earnest. Trees selected months earlier are felled and split, stacked carefully near longhouse walls and under simple shelters. Each piece is measured by weight, dryness, and ease of burning, knowledge passed quietly through generations. No wood is wasted. Even smaller branches are bundled for kindling. Paths between buildings grow busier again as supplies move steadily indoors. Cloth is brought in from open-air drying racks. Boats are hauled higher onto shore, secured against rising water levels and early storms. Nets are cleaned, mended, and stored, ready for spring. Despite the work, the atmosphere remains calm. There is no urgency, no panic. This rhythm has been followed countless times before. People know what to do. They move deliberately, speaking less as focus turns inward. Evenings lengthen once more. Firelight becomes important again. Families gather earlier inside timber halls, the glow of hearths returning as the primary source of warmth and light. Stories are told quietly. Meals are slower. Outside, wind moves through the trees with a deeper sound, no longer playful, but steady and deliberate. The fjord reflects this change. Its surface darkens earlier in the day. Reflections grow sharper as light fades more quickly. Stars appear sooner, scattered clearly above the narrowing band of twilight. Lanterns begin to glow again along paths between homes. Their warm circles of light feel more intimate after the openness of summer. Autumn does not signal hardship yet. Instead, it offers closure. A gentle tightening of daily life. A drawing inward that feels natural rather than forced. By the time the first frost dusts the shoreline stones, the settlement is ready. Supplies are stored. Boats are secured. Homes are prepared. And as the fjord settles into longer nights once more, the people rest with quiet confidence, knowing they have listened carefully to the turning of the season. As autumn deepens along the fjord, the first frost returns quietly. It arrives not with storm or snowfall, but with stillness. Overnight, the air grows colder than it has been in many months, and by morning a thin silver layer settles across the shoreline. Frost traces delicate patterns over wooden docks and moored boats. It gathers along rope fibers, turning them pale and brittle once more. Footpaths that were soft with autumn soil now hold a faint, crystalline sheen beneath early light. The fjord reflects this shift. Mist rises more slowly from the water's surface, thinner now, drawn upward by colder air rather than warmth. The mountains that surround the valley appear sharper again, their slopes dark beneath fading vegetation, waiting quietly for the snow that will soon return. Within the settlement, morning fires burn a little longer. Hands linger closer to the hearth before beginning the day's work. Breath becomes visible in the colder air outside timber walls. Tools left overnight carry a thin frost along their iron edges, warming slowly once touched. Preparations made through autumn now rest in readiness. Smokehouses are quiet. Grain stores are sealed. Boats remain secured along the shore. The pace of life slows naturally, without command. Work continues, but gently, measured by daylight that shortens once again with each passing week. Evening comes earlier now. Lanterns glow along settlement paths sooner than they did before. Firelight fills the longhouses once more, its warmth pushing softly against the returning chill. Outside, the fjord grows darker with each night. Its waters calm beneath the deepening sky. Stars return in greater number, clear and sharp in the cooling air. And sometimes, as clouds part above the mountain ridges, the aurora appears once more, faint at first, then drifting slowly across the horizon in pale green ribbons. The seasons have completed their circle. From winter stillness, to spring renewal, to summer light, and back again, toward the quiet endurance of cold. Within timber halls, fires settle low as night deepens. Embers glow beneath soft ash. The settlement rests, prepared, sheltered and calm beneath the returning frost. And as the fjord grows silent once more beneath the northern sky, sleep comes easily, carried on the steady rhythm of seasons that have turned this way for generations.